Today we are doing something extremely special for Christmas Eve. We are making tamales. So for any good tamale, I think, in my opinion, we're making traditional tamales. We're gonna make them out of a pork roast. So I picked this up at the store yesterday, and let me show you how I do it. I'm gonna have this cooking all day long in my slow cooker, and it is gonna be shredded up by tonight. And then tomorrow we'll make our sauce today, we'll make our meat today, and then tomorrow we're gonna be physically making our tamale. All right, we're gonna start off by taking off some of the fat on the back of this pork roast. We wanna leave some of the fat on it, but we don't need this much fat. This is a lot of fat. And when you take it out of the container, you might wanna consider putting it on a pan like this, because what happens is that they put some kind of a juice in with it, and I usually try to take as much of that off as possible. Now, like I said, I'm not gonna take all this fat off, but I don't wanna be eating solid fat in my, although, you know, let me rephrase that. There's a lot of fat in tamales. It's just the nature of how they're made. And I'll tell you, it's one of those things, once or twice a year, I just don't mind. They're so good. They're one of my favorite things to eat at Christmas. And these make a really nice thing to give away to friends and family who maybe don't cook or, you know, like this kind of food. Maybe they don't feel well enough to make food, but it's a great thing to do. All right, and then all we're gonna do is cut this in about 1 to 2 inch cubes. Now I've got a bone in mine, which is good. I'm actually gonna put the bone inside of my crock pot so that I can pull out some of the goodies from the bone. But all I'm gonna do is just cut this. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not really a pork person. I don't really like a lot of pork. I don't even eat much bacon or sausage, any of that. But this is one of the times I make the exception to my rule. All right. I do like pork tamales. Actually, I like all tamales. So I've got all of my pork completely cut off as much as I can. There's a little bit of meat still on the bone, so I am gonna throw this in the crock pot with my cut up pork. So the first thing we're gonna put in is a whole chopped onion, whole onion chopped, I guess I should say. Now I use my Vidalia onion chopper. I don't chop any other way. It's about all I can do to peel the onions. These brown onions are always a little bit stronger, so I just like to set it up so I don't have a lot of the smell or burning my eyes. Not to mention, it's great to have everything cut uniformly. So I've got this listed in my Amazon store below if anyone's interested. So all we're gonna do now is put our onion inside of our pork base here. Strong onion. Get these onions down at the bottom. Although this is gonna almost make like a pork soup because it's gonna have a lot of fat that's gonna be rendered off of it, and we're gonna put some broth in here as well. Honest to goodness, that's so strong, I gotta cover it while I'm doing the rest of this. Now to this, we're gonna add 2 cups of chicken broth. I have some chicken broth that I canned last month, and I'm gonna go ahead and add this to my pork. If you'd like to see how I can my broth, I'll go ahead and link that in the description. Actually, I'll link it right above. It already smells good, honestly, from the broth and the onions. Now we're gonna add some seasonings. We're gonna add 3 garlic cloves. Now it says to put them in whole, but I'm gonna go ahead and mince them just because I want that garlic to be infused throughout my pork here. All right. All right, so I get the rest of the garlic out. I just like it nice and minced up. I know I don't always follow the recipes exactly, but I've just found through the years, I've always done a lot of cooking, and I've just found the different things that work for me. If you want to follow the recipe, it's 3 cloves, just, you know, just like they are. So this is how we're going to do it today. All right, now we're going to add some garlic powder. Be adding a teaspoon of cumin, a teaspoon of a teaspoon of salt. You want to throw in a couple of bay leaves. Fish those out when you're done. And a little bit of seasoning salt. I'm only gonna put a teaspoon of this in because I'm also gonna be putting, I have a red sauce I'm gonna be making. And then I'm just gonna cover it, and I'm gonna set this on high for 2 hours, and then I'm gonna set it on low for the rest of the day. I won't come back to this until tonight. So now that we've got our pork cooking, we're gonna go ahead and start working on our peppers, our red sauce. So these are some dried ancho peppers. I get these at the grocery store, just over with the vegetables. So I use 3 ancho peppers and 1 jalapeno. I have a family that's not crazy about super hot, spicy food. Now, when I go to Christmas Eve on, Tuesday night, we have family members that are actually from Mexico, and they bring some more spicy tamales. I'm gonna have the tamales that are much more tailored, and even my ancho peppers, I'm gonna take most of the seeds out. I really don't want all these seeds. I'm just gonna kind of shake them. I also don't want this stem in there, so I'm just gonna take that out, like that. All right, now I'm gonna take my jalapeno pepper, and all I'm gonna do is just cut down the side. I'm just going to take some of this seeds out as well. All right, now we're gonna take an onion. Now it says to take 1 onion, but this one is so large, I'm actually only gonna take a half an onion. I'm glad I cut this onion in half. This was a lot of onion. And we are gonna add some water. We just want enough to cover these ingredients. After you add your 3 cloves of garlic, enough water to, cover your ingredients, we want to bring that up to a boil, and then we're going to cook it for about 15 minutes. You want to just soften up all those chilies and onions and garlic, and then we're going to run them through a blender. So my sauce has started to boil. So I've let my sauce cool down, so all I'm going to do now is run it through the blender. This is the color of the sauce after it's gone through the blender. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a very red color, so they call it a red sauce. And we're going to use all of this when we make our tamales. So I'm going to leave it to the side and just let it cool. And then I'm going to put it in another container and stick it in the fridge. My pork is cooking away in the crock pot, and that'll cook all day long, and then I will see you tomorrow and we'll make our tamales. So today is a new day, and we are going to be stuffing our tamales and cooking them. So I'm going to show you this whole process, but the first thing that we're going to do today is start off by soaking our corn husks. Now we need to soak those corn husks for a couple of hours. So all I'm gonna do is separate them, put them in some nice cold water, and just let them sit for a couple of hours, and then we'll get everything else started. So now that our corn husks are nice and softened, we're gonna go ahead and get our masa put together. I'm gonna show you how to do that with the broth and the different things that we made yesterday, and we'll get started with that. So my broth from my meat has been sitting in the freezer or the refrigerator overnight. Now, typically I would strain this fat off, but in tamales, it's a little different. You're actually adding fat into your food, into this particular dish. So I'm gonna opt to leave this on. So all I wanna do is heat this up. Just pour it in a pan. I want all those good flavorings at the bottom of the bowl. We're gonna heat this up so that we can use it in our tamales. So while we're doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on medium high to get this kind of warmed up. Okay, I've got my meat broth all heated up. I've got my lard melted down to a liquid form. So I'm gonna take about a cup of the lard and I'm gonna put that into my masa. And then I'm gonna take a couple of cups of this meat broth and I'm gonna put that in with the masa. And then I'm also gonna take a little bit of the red sauce. Now I haven't heated this up, but it didn't have any fat in it, so I just want to add a little bit of this to our masa. And then we're going to start working this with, I'm going to use a spoon to start. As soon as I mix it up, I'm actually going to start using my hands. Now this, you're going to have a really pliable dough. As you can see, this is way too thick at this point. So we're going to add a little bit more meat broth. It's looking better, but we definitely need it a lot thinner than this. All right, let me start working this with my hands and see how this is looking. You can already tell it's going to need more meat sauce because this is going to dry out as you're going through the process of making your tamales. I think this looks good. Now we may have to add a little bit more broth to it as we're moving along, but this looks really good right now. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my pork to this meat broth. So this pork has also been in the refrigerator all night. It's all cooked. I don't need to do anything to it. This broth will just heat it up a little. I'm gonna go ahead and move all this to the kitchen table because I need a big assembly space here. And I'm gonna show you how we get this done. Gringo style. All right, I've got my tamale station all situated here. Move you in a little closer so you can see the tamale making. All right, so I've let my husks drain. Remember they were sitting for 2 hours, softening up. So here's my husk. I'm gonna start off with a little bit of masa. So I'm gonna take a little masa. You don't need a lot. You don't want to eat a whole thing made of masa. And so all I'm going to do is take a little bit of this meat mixture. And I'm going to just put it all over the whole tamale. I like a tamale to have stuff in it. I don't want to just eat a bunch of masa. And you need a little sheet to put these on. So I just got done making my tamales and I ended up with a huge pan of them and I'm so excited. I still have a whole bunch of pork and red sauce. So I decided that after things settle down from Christmas, I'm going to be making some delicious enchiladas. So this is what I do for my pan because I don't really have a tamale steamer. So I just take a stock pot that I have, and I put a couple of cups in it. And I actually have one of these little steamers here for when I can. So all I do, I'm going to fill it up with some water. I've got some water here, but I'm going to need more water in the steamer. Okay, I filled up the bottom with water. So I'm going to take another cup. I'm using ceramic mugs and just put it in the middle, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start lining my steamer pot with these tamales. Now, don't worry that they're, sticking out a little bit. It's going to be just fine. I just put them in one by one. And the whole point is that they just steam and they get cooked. So just make sure that you get these little ends down towards the steaming water. So now, of course, the longer ones, you're going to want to put more towards the middle because they're not going to stick out as much. Maybe put the smaller ones in the back. And you're just going to put these all the way around your pot. Those are my tamales. So all I'm going to do is put a lid on these. Now, I'm going to put my lid on backwards because I want all these to fit in there. Just put it on the best you can. If you can't get it to fit, then use some foil. But you're going to steam these between 1.5 hours to 2 hours, and then we're going to give them a try after 1.5 hours. Okay, I've got this on high for now because I want to bring this up to a boil. As soon as it starts boiling, then I'm going to put it down to a low simmer, and I'm going to simmer these for 1.5 hours, and then we'll come back and test one. So along with like 50 tamales that I just made, I also got 4 bags of red sauce, which I'm going to be freezing. And I also got 2 huge bags of leftover pork with meat sauce that I'm going to be using at a later date for tamales. So this is a great way to utilize very small amount of money, pork roast, the masa, that kind of thing. And you can get several meals out of it. If you enjoy Mexican food, this is just wonderful to look for these pork roasts on sale at Christmas. Well, our tamales are done. They're absolutely delicious. This was such a fun episode. I hope that you all enjoyed it. I'll be taking these to Christmas Eve tomorrow night, and I'm really excited to have everyone try one. So I hope that you're enjoying your Christmas. I hope you have a Merry Christmas holiday. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my videos. Give me a like, a thumbs up, or ring the bell for future notifications, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.